Welcome to the Deer Industry New Zealand podcast. This episode is a presentation from the 2020 Deer Industry Conference.
Some of you know I've enjoyed a few deer conferences over the years, but this is my first in my new role, and it gives me an opportunity to reflect on why I have chosen to continue my career with the deer industry. Up until I was about 15, I was always going to carry on in my father's footsteps and take over the family farm that he took over from his father, who took it over from his father, who took it on from his father. But the mid-1980s was a grim time for sheep farming in New Zealand. Droughts, floods, terrible prices, and the withdrawal of government support meant that agriculture was referred to as a sunset industry, an industry in decline. All of that made the idea of getting a non-agriculture job, like international stockbroking or something, look pretty attractive. And so I didn't take on the farm. But neither of those things happened. Farming got through the 1980s. Agriculture is not a sunset industry, and its importance is being reinforced to New Zealand as never before at the moment. And I never did become an international financial wizard. And the deer industry has played its part in both these outcomes. The development of the New Zealand deer industry provided the innovation and flexibility of New Zealand deer farmers. It provides diversification and additional revenue opportunities. It shows leadership in the ongoing transformation of the New Zealand agricultural industry. And it is that transformation and innovation that brought me back to agriculture, and after a spell in Europe, back to New Zealand to work for DINNES. Farming got through the disruption of the 1980s and has gone on to thrive. We will get through the COVID disruption. Farmers, processors, and marketers, and even some chefs, prove their passion for deer farming and deer products every day. And we hope that you know that the staff at DINNES share that too. We also share in the unease which is affecting our industry at the moment. Ian has talked about the global environment we find ourselves in and the changing domestic situation agriculture is adapting to. I'm going to review in a little more depth some of the activities Deer Industry New Zealand is doing on your behalf to help create a more certain future. During our presentations over the next 3 weeks, you'll hear from science, policy, producer services, and marketing staff who will talk about the programs they have in place to help attain DINNES' strategic objectives. These are the premium positioning of deer products, market diversification, sustainable on-farm value creation, and being a cohesive and respected industry. But first, here's a picture of a scary man, Carrie Evans. Carrie is a clinical psychologist, an ex-professional footballer, an advisor to the All Blacks, and works with teams, schools, and businesses on performance management. We invited Carrie to work with a group of young farmers and advisors late last year on the topic of performing under pressure. Carrie talked about managing stress and performance and reminded us that we need to concentrate on factors that we can control and on people we can influence, and to not focus on factors or people beyond our control. For the premium positioning of our deer products, we can only focus on what we can control and on who we can influence. We understand our deer velvet markets are weathering the storm okay, but what can we control? We control the story and the integrity of our production systems. We have talked about ways to protect the value of our New Zealand velvet brand and to protect the investment velvet producers have made in our velvet system. A big step forward for this protection will be the Veltrack system we are introducing. With the support of velvet buyers and the NVSB, DINNES is making a significant investment on your behalf to future-proof velvet supply chain integrity. Veltrack is being introduced to provide paddock to processor traceability and quality assurance for every single stick of velvet you produce, and will provide overseas buyers with the means of guaranteeing the provenance of that velvet. And with more and more marketing companies proudly displaying the New Zealand origin of their velvet ingredient, this is becoming increasingly important. Velvet producers have been working with supply chain compliance for the past few years. The good news is that Veltrack will make this easier and quicker. Those of you who are enjoying working with EASDs know how much easier filling in forms online is rather than fiddling with and losing bits of paper. The new tags have been well received, and next year, when they come with UHF chips, the system will work seamlessly for your benefit. On market diversification, Carrie Evans talked about performing under pressure, and we are all dealing with the pressure of the impact of COVID on our venison markets now. We came into COVID on the back of some spectacular years for venison, but with an overhang of frozen venison in the USA and Europe. Diversification into China was extremely important and going well. But in March, all of the restaurants in Europe and North America closed, and access to China was stopped. I know there was a lot of uncertainty and anxiety about venison prospects and the schedule as we went into COVID. Everybody in the supply chain had had the rug pulled out from under them. Suppliers to the restaurant trade did not know if they had a business tomorrow, and as a result, they were not thinking about venison sales in 6 months' time. For DINNES, 3 clear priorities emerged: restore confidence and access to China, assist marketers develop new channels to consumers, and ramp up promotion of venison for food service as restaurants reopened. With China, we have had success in confirming access for venison, and this is allowing trade to resume. But access for co-products and bones is unresolved, and this will continue to have an impact on the schedule. All marketers are looking at new channels: retail, online, home delivery, even door-to-door. It takes time to develop new products and distribution channels, and it is harder for perishable products. But we are very pleased to see a good win with an alliance customer getting Savannah into a Belgian retailer over the summer, First Light introducing new retail goods, and our other companies ramping up their retail and home delivery offers and promotions. And thirdly, Nick Taylor and our contract chefs are producing new support material for chefs in China, Belgium, the USA, Germany, and the Netherlands, passing this on to the importers and assisting with key account contacts to get ready to push venison as restaurants reopen. And they are reopening, and they are buying venison again. It's great to see restaurants in Germany and Belgium open, and I hear booked up for a month. And the chefs who were fans of New Zealand venison before lockdown are still with us. But a word on the venison schedule. Companies have, to the best of their ability, sought to provide producers with some certainty about future prospects at a very uncertain time. I know there wasn't enough information coming out during weaner sales in April, and I understand that the method some venison companies chose to provide some certainty did not please everybody. But the clear signal that was set at that time provided some certainty back into the livestock market in New Zealand, which allowed trade to resume, and has set a floor for pricing in the market that allowed discussions to resume, with a lift in the schedule since then. If I was any good at PR, then my headline this week would be unprecedented lift in the venison prices, 20% increase in 1 week. Yeah, nah. Too soon? Probably. Revenue is one contributor towards sustainable on-farm value creation. The other is efficient production systems, which means getting more from less. It's great to see your velvet and venison productivity increasing. Higher carcass weights are testament to the better genetics, feeding, and management that you have implemented over the past few years. Velvet weights improve year on year, but need to be balanced with keeping an eye on costs of production and keeping a balance to the farm business portfolio. Sustainable on-farm value creation arises from enabling dairy farmers to continuously improve their operations to deliver greater value more efficiently. One of the areas DINNES manages is the genetics referencing system Dairy Select. The genetics program DINNES runs through Dairy Select was recently independently reviewed and concluded that the dairy industry was benefiting from an average annual 8% improvement in the rate of genetic gain among recorded herds since 2009, and that this rate had accelerated in the past 5 years with improved recording by breeders. A comparable sized sector was used for comparison, the Irish sheep sector. Without objective genetic breeding values, their rate of genetic gain was negative. The ram decisions they were making based on the good old iometer were sending them backwards. We have some exciting new technology that is becoming affordable for a small industry like deer that will power up genetic improvement. And proof that Kala is a heritable indicator of parasite tolerance is super exciting for breeders. Jamie Ward will be talking about this later on today. My predecessors, Mark O'Connor and Dan Coop, talked about the importance of being proud to be a deer farmer. Our confidence has taken a knock with COVID, but the history and the tenacity of deer farmers, the great reputation of our products, and the advancements we have coming through science tell me that we can continue to have confidence in our industry. We continue to improve the premium positioning of our products. We diversify into the best returning markets. And as we build sustainable on-farm value, we will improve our reputation as a cohesive and respected industry. Thank you.
Innes MOFFAT, CEO for Deer Industry New Zealand, joins us now following that presentation. Now, Innes, with the uncertainty in venison markets, is DINS cutting costs?
DINS certainly keeps a very close eye on all of our expenses, but we think that where there are going to be opportunities to be helping companies, particularly venison companies with tactical sales of venison, we should be making the most use of our resources. And so that may mean that we may increase some expenditure in some of our key markets. But as I say, we're very mindful of the levy income that we have, so we'll be keeping a very close eye on it.
Is there more venison being sold in New Zealand as a result of some of those supply chain interruptions because of COVID?
There certainly is. All of the companies are putting a bit of a push into the New Zealand market. And I think a company like Silver Fern Farms reported that as we went into lockdown, they had their best month of retail sales ever. So maybe it was a case in some instances where people were stockpiling toilet paper and venison as essentials to have as we went into the lockdown period.
Certainly essential for health, we know that much, not so much toilet paper. Now, what's DINS doing about the freshwater regulations and working with government on this policy?
Yeah, we've got our environmental stewardship manager, Dr. Lindsay Fong, who is working very closely with deer farmers associations, branches around the country, and has been invited alongside the other sector pastoral groups and agricultural sector groups to review the draft regulations which are coming out. We alongside the DFA made a submission last year on some of the areas of those freshwater regulations that we felt were unnecessary. There's a little bit more detail to come, and Lindsay will be providing us with an update in one of the sessions next week. But there will be more information to come out around that.
Is DINS working with other agencies to help promote New Zealand products overseas?
Yeah, we really want to get alongside other producers and exporters of fine New Zealand produce. An example of that is something that we call Pure New Zealand Cuisine, that we've been working alongside Beef and Lamb New Zealand and some of the wineries, Aquaculture New Zealand, in the USA for a few years now. And we put a chef into culinary schools, and they present in a non-commercial manner, not in a sales manner, a full basket of the very best of New Zealand produce. So that's an example of a successful activity across the groups, and we'd like to see if we could expand those into some other markets.
Now, Innes, we've got some questions rolling in here. Bill Robinson from Cambridge would like to comment that the velvet tags are clumsy and good education program needs to happen to get farmers to use them properly.
Bill is absolutely correct that a good education program is essential, and as we begin to introduce the Veltrack system, we will be putting a huge amount of effort into making sure that people can use the system for their benefit.
And Rod and Rach Inch from Broccoli Deer Farm said since the decision of some of the processors has affected farmer confidence in them, wondering how DINS is looking at supporting some of the smaller processors to take more venison.
Oh, look, we work alongside all of our venison processors, and they are all doing as much as they can to find and develop new markets so that they can be returning as much as possible back to the venison producers.
And lastly, has carcass weights gone up, or are people killing their deer later?
Yeah, we definitely think that deer are growing faster. We're looking at a lot of the data that is being produced. It's one of the advantages of having our Deer Pro operation is that we've got a very detailed data set on carcass weights, and they clearly show that growth rates have improved by about 3 or 4% per year over the last 4 or 5 years. And that's a great testament to the care and attention that deer farmers are taking with their stock. Improvements in genetics, certainly improvements in feeding and nutrition, and as we say, a bit more attention around animal health as well. So it's been a good example of some successful work by New Zealand deer farmers.
Well, it's been a big year for you, INNES, and congratulations in your new role as CEO for Deer Industry New Zealand. Keep up the great work. If you'd like to watch this episode, head to Deer Industry on YouTube to find that and more from the 2020 Deer Industry Conference. And for more information, head to www.deernz.org.